Chili pepper number 5 reporting for duty. This is what happens when Google Docs is too much of a friend. You crib notes. Yep, Adam Learmonth back for another round of ritualistic torture with a paying audience. Who's giving and who's receiving the torture is still up for debate. Now my work, and I use a broad definition of the word work, is in pursuing a degree in writing practice and study, a master's degree no less, at University of Dundee. Now, that involves a fair chunk of creative writing. Thank you, by the way, Shan, for shattering all of my illusions. But there's a lot of close literary analysis and study of author techniques as well. Now, my specialty is in poetry. Of course it is. I mean, you see the hat, the jacket, the hipster glasses, and the unkempt beard. I'm either a poet or a piss poor Indiana Jones cosplayer. Someone actually said on the way in, I look a bit like Heisenberg. I don't see what my work has to do with the uncertainty principle, but I'll go with it. I mainly undertook this degree because I wanted to find my voice in poetry, or in prose indeed, but particularly poetry, my voice. The thing that will give me the X factor, the distinctness that people will look at my work, read or hear it decades from now and say, it's a classic Learmonth verse. In the same way as, say, like Shakespeare or Kipling or Rabbie Burns or even McGonagall will be fine. Actually, I don't think even I can parallel William Topaz McGonagall in his sheer abuse of the English language. Everyone knows his work on the bridge of over the Silvery Tay, with buttresses in such grand array. But I recently discovered that he wrote a verse after a visit to his doctor. This is just beautiful. He told me at once what was ailing me. He said I had been writing too much poetry. And from writing poetry I would have to refrain, because I was suffering from inflammation on the brain. Now, history doesn't record whether the inflammation ever went down for McGonagall, but I think the doctor definitely overlooked something in not checking him over for an irony deficiency. Thank you. No, believe it or not, in spite of all of the stuff about creative writing stuff, there is some academia involved in writing practice and study. Each semester I have to pick an author or a poet that has inspired my writing, and no, it's not McGonagall, and to write a close essay on some facet of their writing, and also to then demonstrate an imitation of their style and their techniques. So in my first semester thesis before Christmas, I chose to do a close research essay on Sylvia Plath, and then tried to emulate her as best I could. Unfortunately, I only have an electric oven, so... If you don't get that reference, thank you, Lucky Stars. I think you feel bad, I'm up here delivering it. But for the second semester, I went with Dylan Thomas, classic Welsh poet. Yeah, go Wales. He loved Wales so much, he's alleged to have said, "Wales is the land of my fathers, and my fathers can keep it." So anyway, I tried imitating him, but I couldn't afford, neither my wallet nor my stomach could afford the bar tab. Yeah. His alleged last words are, "I've had 18 straight whiskies, I think that's the record." The Dundee Students' Union readily acknowledges my strenuous efforts in trying to emulate him. As for the thesis question, I tried to, I wanted to see to which poetic movement he belongs, because some argue, that classic Wikipedia tactic, put some argue and then you can put anything you like, free of repercussion after. Not that I'd do that. But what poetic movement does he belong to? Is he a modernist, as some argue, a romantic, a surrealist, maybe even a neo-romantic? Neo-romantic's not when Keanu Reeves asks you on a date. That's just called disappointment. That's me, I'm sorry, Keanu. What I did discover, I didn't come to a definitive conclusion about Dylan Thomas's work, which movement he belongs to, but I did come to some pretty good conclusions about my own poetic movements. It usually starts with the duvet sheets to the kitchen cupboard, the kitchen cupboard to the fridge to the microwave, sometimes out to the bar and back. But I'm quite diverse in my poetic movements. No, I think I should be taking it more seriously, but it's not just at Bright Club that I'm like this. I'm terrible for subverting even the serious writing with humour. It's a terrible addiction. In my first semester's creative portfolio, I attempted this complex form of Vietnamese poetry called a lukbat. Now, I'll obviously be preaching to the converted here, you're also intelligent, but basically that's iambic meter, alternating 6 and 8 syllable lines, and the rhyme scheme goes that the 8 syllable line rhymes with the 6 syllable line after it, which in turn has an internal rhyme with the 6th syllable of the 8 syllable line subsequent. Piece of cake, right? Oh, and also the last 2 lines, the internal and external, have to rhyme with the top one, completing a sort of circle. Now, I only wanted this to be sort of like 8, 12 lines long, but I couldn't finish it because I couldn't get the rhyme scheme to circle, so it just got longer and longer. Hours turned into days, and eventually I finally succeeded in a lukbat. It was 26 lines, and it was actually quite bittersweet. It was sort of a reflection on the corruption of childhood memories and how returning to things that old places, old people that you knew before, and them not being quite how you recall, is kind of a poignant and bittersweet thing. It's titled "Don't Look Bat in Anger." Obviously, more Blur fans and Oasis fans here tonight. But actually, it's probably a best thing if I don't take myself too seriously, because when I do, it can sometimes lead to disaster. I have here, for your listening pleasure, and I use a very, very broad definition of the word pleasure, a genuine example of one of my earliest love poems, written as a 17-year-old advanced higher English student and a virgin. Would you like to hear it? Well, I was going to do it either way. This isn't a democracy. Vote early and vote often. Right. This is Ode to a Princess. You get plenty of chance to grow after it. Embittered by true love's true lies, I hold a virtual paradise. For no real woman could possess such pixelated perfectness. Oh, it gets better. Intelligent beyond her years and silent more than human peers. Each time I'm low, she's my console. Console, yeah. She's in my hands, I'm in control. That's a bit of a problem with that. Between our union lies, alas, the television looking glass. I can't be glad with this divide, my sense of touch not satisfied. She'll always be just out of reach, like Lara Croft and Princess Peach. But Zelda, ever shall you be my 32-bit destiny. Now, you may laugh and you may applaud, but some poor bastard at the SQA had to assess that with a straight face, I imagine, and probably some tear of unspecified emotion running down his or her cheek. Amazingly enough, I wound up with a D for Advanced Higher English. And at the time, I concluded that my close study essays must have been pretty mediocre, and it was saved by this wonderful portfolio. Judging by the reaction from this room, if nothing else, I might have to reconsider those findings. So I may not be the poet that I aspire to be one day. It just might never happen, but I take some solace in words of Dylan Thomas himself, actually. I know the importance of maintaining a healthy work-life balance. I know it by not maintaining one. But just to close with some words from Mr. Thomas. Poetry is not the most important thing in the world. Neither is a good Welsh accent. So I'll soon away. Poetry is not the most important thing in the world. I would much rather lie in a hot bath, reading Agatha Christie and sucking sweets. I will drink to that. Thank you, good night.